Hello, I'm Dr. Thompson, and today I'm going to talk to you about the permanent and stationary status. When a person is injured in the workplace, they enter the workers' compensation system. And as you probably know, there are a lot of rules and regulations and procedures. And one of those is that after a course of treatment, it is expected that your condition stabilizes. That's called permanent and stationary. And after a course of treatment, the injury can either heal completely or you can have residual limitations or pain. If you heal completely, then you go back to work, and you're probably not watching this video. But if you have residual limitations or pain, then you have residual impairment, and this has to be determined. That's called the permanent and stationary status. The definition is that permanent and stationary means the point in time when the employee has reached maximal medical improvement, meaning their condition is well stabilized and unlikely to change substantially in the next year with or without medical treatment. The terms permanent and stationary and maximal medical improvement mean the same thing. When you've reached maximal medical improvement and you still have some ongoing pain and limitations, it doesn't mean that you're all better or fully recovered. And it doesn't mean that you can't have more treatment, but it does reflect a point in time that it can be determined that the injury has caused residuals that can be specified, such as you should avoid lifting over 30 pounds. This determination requires a special report that goes over the ongoing pain and limitations and the need for future medical treatment. The permanent and stationary status is the third stage in the life of a workers' compensation claim. The first stage, of course, is when you get injured and do the paperwork. The second stage is the medical treatment and disability benefits. And the last stage is the settlement process. Who declares somebody permanent and stationary? Well, this is made by the primary treating physician, which is your main workers' comp doctor, and or a qualified medical evaluator or independent doctor assigned by the state. These medical professionals assess the worker's condition and decide if it is stabilized. The criteria for a permanent and stationary declaration is based on medical evidence, including physical examinations, diagnostic tests, and the worker's response to treatment. The doctor will consider if the condition has plateaued, and if additional treatment is unlikely to result in any significant permanent improvement. When you're declared permanent and stationary, if you disagree, you can challenge this. And this can be done by requesting a second opinion from another medical professional, typically a QME. Legal advice can also be sought to navigate this process. Permanent and stationary and temporary disability. These are two different things. Temporary disability, or TD, these benefits are payments to the worker while they recover from their work-related injury. These temporary disability benefits typically continue as long as the worker demonstrates improvement in their function with ongoing treatment. The temporary disability benefits are typically limited to a maximum of 2 years or 104 weeks. Permanent and stationary and permanent disability. Once an injured worker is declared permanent and stationary, and if they have not fully recovered, there's likely to be a permanent loss of function determined. The permanent disability benefits compensate workers for permanent loss of function or lasting impairments that affect their ability to earn a living. Permanent and stationary and permanent disability. So how is the permanent disability amount determined? Well, after a worker reaches a permanent and stationary status, a disability rating is determined. The rating helps calculate the amount of permanent disability benefits the worker will receive. The physician uses objective information from the history and examination and diagnostic tests to determine an impairment rating that is described in a special book called the AMA Guides to Permanent Impairment. The rating from the physician is then modified with a mathematical formula that considers other factors such as the worker's age, occupation, and the nature of the injury to determine the permanent disability benefits. The permanent disability then is used for settlement. The settlement is the last and fourth stage of the life of the claim. The worker can settle in different ways, getting a permanent disability as a monthly check or in a lump sum, and the details will be covered in another class. Permanent and stationary and the voucher. The voucher was formerly known as a supplemental job displacement benefit, and the voucher is a benefit provided to workers who cannot return to their previous job due to the injury. The voucher can be used for retraining, education, or skill enhancement to help the worker find a new job. To qualify, you first need to reach a permanent and stationary status and have work restrictions that prevent you from returning to your previous employment. Then the voucher aims to support you in transitioning to a new career path, reducing the long-term impact of your disability, and the voucher will be covered a little bit more detail in another class. So in summary, the permanent and stationary status is also known as maximal medical improvement. And that is the point in time that your doctor has determined that your condition is stable and you will not have any permanent significant improvement with ongoing medical treatment over the next year or more. So permanent and stationary is stage 3 in the life of the claim, and it is the point at time when temporary disability benefits end, permanent disability is determined, and the process of settlement and case resolution and settlement begins. And you may be eligible for the voucher. Discussion time. So number 1, what is your reaction to hearing that injured workers are declared permanent and stationary and not expected to recover any further? Number 2, how do you stay motivated to stay active and healthy after being declared permanent and stationary? And number 3, the functional restoration program is often the final treatment that is tried before an injured worker is declared permanent and stationary. How does this change your view of the time in FRP and your future? Well, that's it for me in permanent and stationary status. Once again, I'm Dr. Thompson. Have a good day.